freed if Rachel figures out how to stop the electrocution. At that moment, the puppets came awake, but Zach realized he was about to lose his worthless brain and begged Rachel to figure something out. So as the chair electrocuted him once again, Rachel began to study the puppets and thought they were put here for a reason. So as she pulled the scythe, she started hacking them one after another until the electrocution stopped. With Zach unconscious, she began wondering if he was still alive, but he screamed at her for taking so long, seeing as he nearly lost his brain. Just then, Kathy appeared on the TV, but Zach smashed her worthless face. However, they continued hearing her voice over the PA system as she decided to open the exit. Before long, they arrived at a warning sign, and Rachel tried telling Zach that the room would be worse than the last, but his fried brain thought he was invincible, so he decided to enter anyway. At once, the door sealed them inside, but Zach thought the room was just a useless dump. As Kathy appeared on their TV, she began explaining their next challenge and said that they must solve the puzzle before they were killed by toxic gas. At that moment, an alarm started blaring, and the toxic gas was released into the room. Hoping to keep Rachel alive, Zach tried to put the oxygen mask on her, saying that his worthless life depends on her survival. But she could care less for her own life and told him to save himself first. As she noticed a corpse, she thought it must be a clue, so Zach kicked it over. Right then, she spotted the writing on the floor and wondered what it meant. However, she began to grow sick from the gas, so Zach put the mask on her, telling her to stay alive no matter what. So she told him to put a foot on the scale, hoping they could solve the puzzle by balancing the weight. As she managed to do so, she discovered that the exit still wasn't opened, and wondered why they weren't freed already. So she decided to search for more clues, and took the mask off, but the gas began to weaken her body, and as she got worse, she thought she was about to die. But Zach caught her before she passed out, and put the mask on her, saying that they must survive. As his words inspired her, she decided to search for new clues, and soon noticed an opening in the ceiling. When she wondered how they could search inside, Zach threw her into the ceiling at once. Inside, she managed to find a key card, but when Zach realized she was too sick to even use it, he tried to put it in the machine. However, his moronic brain couldn't figure it out, and he eventually bent the card. At that moment, Kathy revealed that their time had already ran out, and decided to increase the toxic gas. But with Zach determined to survive, Rachel realized she could create a bomb using the gas and batteries. But as soon as she created it, she passed out, and the bomb exploded in that instant, destroying the entire room. Luckily, they managed to survive the explosion, but Rachel fell down again as she had grown weak from inhaling the gas. However, as she managed to stand, they started walking towards their next challenge. But when Zach noticed Rachel struggling to move forward, he decided to let her rest. A few hours later, they began walking towards the next room, but Kathy used the PA system again, saying it was admirable how both of them were using each other to fulfill their desires, but wondered which one was the real tool. Zach wondered what the fuck she meant by that, but she told him that he would find out soon. Eventually, they arrived in a cell and noticed a dollhouse, so Kathy revealed that they would only be allowed to leave if one of them manages to solve the riddle. With Zach too moronic to do anything, Rachel decided to solve it, hoping he would rearrange the dollhouse instead. As a drawer opened before Rachel, she saw a math problem, and after solving it, she realized that the numbers referred to the page and sentences written inside a book. So after deciphering the code and matching the words, she told Zach to put the man doll in the living room. As he did, another drawer opened, so she told him to put the woman doll beside it. However, as he picked a bandaged doll that looked exactly like him, he realized that this challenge was specifically created to make him relive his past. As the memories began to haunt him, his anger grew, and he tried to destroy the dollhouse. But Kathy told him that he would be stuck in the cell forever, so he decided to spare it, but got even worse as the doll reminded him of the way he used to eat the other dead kids, and how he was constantly abused by his worthless foster parents. Kathy continued reminding him that he was nothing but a worthless tool his entire life, and that even now he was being used by Rachel to help them escape. With all those memories coming back, he destroyed the entire set. But Kathy revealed that they already passed the challenge. Immediately, the gate sealed them in, separating them into two different cells, and Rachel wondered if the dollhouse was starting to make him lose his mind. As Kathy decided to reveal herself to them, she said that they would only be freed if they take a shot from the syringe. However, with one of the needles containing a fatal venom, Zach wondered which one of them would survive. But Kathy decided to leave. Rachel wanted to take both shots as she wanted to die anyway, but Zach knew he was screwed once she dies, and told her to stay alive until he was dead. Before she knew it, he took her needle and injected both into his body. So as the door opened, he began to leave, but Rachel was worried that he would soon lose consciousness. Before long, Zach became totally exhausted as the memories from his past continued flashing across his mind. Just as Rachel appeared before him, he readied his scythe to end her, but she wouldn't even flinch, and reminded him that she already agreed to help him escape so that he would fulfill his promise to send her off to the afterlife. Afraid of getting stuck forever, Zach decided to release her and asked her to stay alive until he killed her, saying that he hates nothing more than liars before pushing her away. As he began to lose his mind to the drugs, Rachel started running away, hoping to save him by staying alive. But when she entered another room, she realized it was a dead end. But Zach continued approaching her, ready to take her life. Realizing she has nowhere else to run, Rachel decided to surrender. But as Zach raised his scythe, a bullet pierced his arm, and Rachel noticed the guns pointing at them. At that moment, Kathy appeared before them, saying that they were in the firing squad room, and that she could easily end their worthless lives with her remote. As Zach managed to stand, he tried to destroy the glass, but a bullet pierced his leg immediately. Realizing he may be wounded, Rachel tried to help him, but he screamed at her to stay away, afraid he would lose his mind again. To make them even, Kathy revealed the gun on the floor, and told Rachel to kill Zach before he kills her. However, as she decided to pick the gun up, Zach told her to end him, but she refused, telling him that they wouldn't become puppets of that woman, because it was their choice to kill or to be killed, and that they weren't tools to be used. Hearing those words, Zach wished she wouldn't say such interesting things now, and couldn't hold himself back, so he asked her to smile already. But when she faked a smile at him, his mind began breaking apart. After all, he knew it was nothing but a fake smile, but thought seeing her real smile would make him the happiest man alive. Just the thought of killing her while she smiled began making him smile more than anyone else, so he decided to isekai himself to destroy his own happiness. Angered by the sight, Kathy entered the room and began calling both of them a pair of ugly, useless trash that deserved to be judged as sinners. When Rachel tried saying that they aren't her puppet, she smacked her face, saying that Zach deserved to suffer before his death, and called Rachel a worthless failure for refusing to kill him by herself. Ready to end her, she directed the guns towards her, but Zach regained consciousness at that moment, as the ugly bitch decided to step on his wound. Hoping to torture his worthless body before finally killing him, Rachel pointed the gun at her and threatened to end her life at that instant. However, Kathy told her that the gun wasn't even loaded, and caused one of her guns to shoot it away. But as she returned to Zach, Rachel pulled another gun from her bag and fired at her. Even so, Kathy survived, and thought that Rachel had become a perfect criminal and was ready to be judged. But Zach sliced her arm off, saying that her disgusting face deserves to be condemned, and slayed her instantly. However, Kathy managed to crawl towards the remote, determined to kill them, but her guns fired in the wrong direction until they ran out of bullets. As she entered Nirvana, Zach revealed that the drugs were starting to wear off, and that he has returned to his senses. As they arrived at the control room, Rachel discovered that Kathy was controlling the entire floor, and eventually opened the door with the controls. Before long, they came across writing on the wall, and Rachel thought it might be a clue to find the elevator. But when they arrived at another corridor, they realized it was the same place they passed through when they first arrived. So Rachel suggested that they try the mugshot room. Inside the room, as Zach wondered how they would open the elevator, Rachel noticed an indentation and remembered the writing on the wall. She thought it must really be a clue and decided to use Zach's name board on the indentation. Immediately, the elevator opened, and as they ascended to another floor, Zach asked her how she wound up in this useless building. As Rachel told him that she was taken to a hospital for counseling after witnessing a murder, she revealed that she has no idea how she ended up here. When Zach wondered how she found her gun, she told him that it has always been with her. Just then, the elevator stopped, and as Zach passed out before her eyes, she realized he had lost all his red sauce, so she decided to drag him out of the elevator. However, as he regained consciousness, she noticed his wound and realized that his life would end if he wasn't treated. So as he lost consciousness again, she decided to go in search of first aid. When she arrived inside a dark room, she began hurrying towards the end. Just then, the candles lit up, and she realized she was inside an empty chapel. At the same time, a purple smoke surrounded her, but as it cleared, she realized it was only an illusion. As she entered another dark room, she continued to sense the purple smoke around her. At that moment, a creepy white-eyed dude appeared behind her, demanding to know who she is. However, when she wouldn't say, he decided to tell her that he's the priest of this church, and introduced himself as Gray. As he told her that this is actually his floor, Rachel thought he might be another deranged menace, and tried to step back, but he told her that he hasn't judged her yet, and couldn't pass any judgment on her. When he wondered why she was here, she told him that she was trying to save her friend, so he revealed that she could only find first aid on Danny's floor. After asking how she could reach it, Gray offered to take her, but said that she must first undergo a series of tests in hopes of discovering who she really is. With time running out, Rachel decided to return to Zach, hoping he was still alive. While she helped him to rest on the wall, she decided to tell him about the mysterious priest, but Zach tried to follow her, afraid the man would be a threat. However, as he realized he couldn't even lift his own scythe, Rachel told him that he would die soon at this rate, but asked him to rest in the meantime as she promised to save him. So as he realized he would only be dead weight anyway, Zach finally agreed. Before long, Rachel returned to the ugly white-eyed priest and told him that she was willing to take his test, but asked that he spare Zach's worthless life. A few minutes later, they descended down the elevator. As the purple smoke began to surround them, Rachel realized it was emanating from the priest. But they soon arrived at Kathy's floor. Rachel wondered why they weren't on Danny's floor instead, so Gray told her that she would be tested in all the previous floors she's been on, and said that her only task here was to turn on the electricity that powers the elevator. After letting out those words, purple smoke spread across the entire floor, so Rachel hurried away. Just as she spotted the switch, a zombie fell down before her and more zombies appeared. So she started running away as they tripped on each other, but more of them appeared, so she fired at one and managed to hide inside a room. However, the zombies forced their way inside, but she escaped into another room and realized that Kathy's body has vanished. At once, she hurried to the controls, and as she activated the guns, she began firing at them, realizing she was running out of time. When she was done, Kathy's ghost appeared behind her and started calling her an ugly, useless killer who only cared for herself, saying that she was now worse than Zach and that she was the greatest sinner in the world. However, Rachel was unfazed by her disgusting words and merely watched her vanish. When she returned to the cell, she switched on the electricity, and by the time she arrived at the elevator, she realized it was open. However, when Gray asked to know what enemies she came across, she told him she already annihilated them, and said that they were irrelevant. As he realized she wasn't feeling bad about killing the nearly dead prisoners, Gray decided to lead her to Eddie's floor, and once they arrived, he told her to find the electricity switch inside the control room. But Rachel was already sick of his useless tests and started thinking it was a waste of time. However, Gray decided to tell her that the tests were meant to reveal who she really is, because she was considered an irregular child. Right then, she realized that Eddie's body had vanished, but Gray led her away immediately. Before long, they arrived at the destroyed graveyard, and Gray began saying that the souls of the buried bodies could never move on to the afterlife, since their graves had been destroyed. However, as she tried to leave, a ghost hand grabbed her ankle, but she kicked it away. As it tried to return, she crushed it instantly, but more hands emerged from the ground, so she began trampling them one after another until all of them were destroyed. Eventually, she found the switch inside a locker, and as she switched it on, the elevator opened. Just then, Eddie's ghost appeared before her, wondering if her cold, ugly heart felt no bit of emotion for the hands she destroyed, but she ignored his shitty face, realizing he must be an illusion. Immediately, she hurried back to Gray, hoping to save Zach before it was too late. However, when he wondered what enemies she came across, she told him that they were ugly, useless hands that she managed to destroy without the slightest bit of emotion. Hearing her words, Gray thought her soul must be lost, but decided to lead her to Danny's floor. As they arrived, he said that he would wait at the next elevator, but told her to find a way to heal Zach's injuries first. However, as she arrived inside the examination room, she discovered that Danny's body was also gone, and realized that he must be alive. As she began searching for first aid equipment, she realized that all the closets were empty. When she checked the other rooms, she discovered they were all deserted, so she rushed to the elevator. As she arrived, she wondered if Gray was trying to stall her until Zach would die, but he told her that he was as clueless as her worthless face, and said she was responsible for Zach's injury. However, when he realized his words were useless to her, he suggested they head to Zach's floor, saying that they might find some bandages. With nothing more to lose, Rachel agreed to follow him, so they descended towards the lower floors. At the same time, Danny had appeared before Zach, realizing this would be his only chance to kill him. But in the last moment, Zach regained consciousness, and he was ready to kill him instead. When he wondered how he managed to survive, Danny revealed that he was wearing a protective vest when he got stabbed, and said that he managed to suture his own wound afterwards. Angered by the sight of his worthless face, Zach tried to slay him, but his injury prevented him from moving. So Danny revealed that the only thing he cared about was finding Rachel's beautiful eyes, but Zach told him that he killed her already. Hearing those words, Danny's mind began breaking down, and began saying that he intended to add her eyeballs to his weird collection. As he said those words, Zach realized he might be the most f***ed up creep of them all, and revealed that he would be the one to end her life. At that moment, Danny realized Zach had slipped up, and that Rachel was still alive, so he told Zach to gouge out her eyes in exchange for getting treated. However, Zach would never go back on the promise they made for each other, so Danny decided to leave, but Zach fell from exhaustion. In the meantime, Rachel and Gray arrived on Zach's floor, and she began running towards the spot where she first saw him, hoping to find the knife he had earlier asked her to retrieve. As she entered his disgusting room, she discovered it was worse than a ghetto, but managed to find a fresh bandage and the knife. So she returned to Gray, and they took the lift back to the upper floors. But when she arrived at the spot where she left him, she realized Zach was gone, and thought that Gray must have returned to abduct him. But he told her that she was nothing but a curse to everyone, and revealed that Danny was still alive. Hearing his words, Rachel realized that Zach was in danger. However, as she tried to look for him, Gray began saying that he's finally discovered who she really is, and that he was ready to judge her for her sins. He told her that she was entirely hopeless, and said that her desire to save Zach was for her own selfish reasons, because she hopes to be killed by him. Rachel tried saying that she truly desires to save him, but Gray released the purple smoke around her. Before she knew it, a giant serpent appeared before her eyes, so she ran before it could devour her. As she tried hiding inside a room, it broke through the door, but she spotted Zach before her eyes. Afraid he would be killed, she tried to pull him to a safe spot, but he shoved her away, and the illusion cleared at that instant. Zach thought she may have lost her mind, but sat down as his injury got worse. The sight of his weak, useless body made Rachel sad, and she told him that she couldn't find any first aid equipment on Danny's floor. When Zach told her that the useless moron was still alive, she decided to hand over his knife, and Zach was glad that he finally has a weapon he could wield. As he noticed the frightened look on her face, he tried saying that he was a monster, and that he would survive no matter what. But as he managed to stand, she suggested that they follow the trail of blood, hoping it would lead them to Danny. However, as Rachel came across a slashed painting, a serpent tried to devour her, but Zach managed to save her, and told her to find the exit immediately. As Zach tried to fight off the snake, Rachel found the secret door, but the snake retreated into the wall. Before long, it appeared before her, but Zach managed to slice it, as his injury grew even worse. A few minutes later, they tried to find another exit, but Zach collapsed on the floor, having lost the rest of his strength, so Rachel told him that she would find Danny on her own. As Zach thought it would be too dangerous, he decided to check her gun, but discovered it was already empty. Angered by the discovery, he wondered why she was willing to risk her life to save him, so she revealed that the only thing she cared about was the vow he made to God. However, Zach had heard enough of her bullshit, and told her that there was no God in their world. Hearing those words crushed her, and she wondered where her soul would go once she was dead, but Zach screamed at her to smile anyway. As she managed to do so, he laid down from fatigue, and Rachel realized that he was losing all of his blood. She thought it was only a matter of time before he enters nirvana, but he gave her his knife, and told her to protect herself in the meantime, so she hurried off to find Danny. As she entered a new corridor, she noticed another trail of blood, and thought it would lead her to him. However, as she followed the trail, purple smoke began oozing from a candle, and the trail began to fade. So she started running into the mist, but fell into a great hole. Before she knew it, she woke up inside a grave, and Eddie's ghost appeared before her eyes, but she told him to get his ugly ass face out of her sight. However, as he decided to bury her anyway, she stabbed the headstone, but teleported to Kathy's torture chamber instantly. As she wondered how she was teleporting, the mist surrounded her again, and Kathy's ghost electrified her on the chair. In a blink, she teleported to a new room, but Kathy's horrendous face reflected in the mirror. At that moment, a mist teleported her to the church, and the illusion was starting to make her lose her mind. But when she noticed Gray before her, she demanded to know where Danny was hiding, so he told her that he was clueless, but said he managed to acquire some medication for Zach. Hearing his words, Rachel realized she could save Zach after all, and tried asking him for the medication. However, when she discovered he has no intention of handing it over, she threatened to carve her knife into his worthless face. But he said that she deserves even worse pain, blaming her for causing Zach's injury. He called her a witch.